The Prime Minister here, of course, has confronted President Trump on these leaks from the ongoing investigation into the Manchester bombing incident on Monday night. Trump has referred to that. He says the leak culprits should be prosecuted. We're hearing from the BBC that Manchester police have stopped sharing information with the United States. How damaging is this when it comes to relations between the two countries?
I think that remains to be seen. It's worth noting that President Trump just moments ago put out a public statement saying that the leaker should be prosecuted, but also calling for the Department of Justice, led of course by Attorney General Jeff Sessions, to investigate the matter and to draw up a report on these leaks coming from the intelligence community. Now, that said, I spoke with a senior White House official earlier today who told me that they believe this storyline will only highlight the notion that President Trump has argued for quite some time now, that these leaks undermine national security efforts. You'll remember the top intelligence officials earlier this week and last week testifying before the House and the Senate, saying that these leaks did as much. So clearly this is very much an evolving issue, but worth noting that President Trump staying on script, not speaking off the cuff on this matter, and also worth noting that this is the most script that I've ever seen Donald Trump ever be as he heads now into Europe.
Yes, except for that one comment that appeared to be off script about the cost of the actual new headquarters. He said he hadn't asked for it, that he had basically held himself back from asking it. Kevin, he'll move on to the G7 after this. How important is it to develop more of a friendship with the leaders, particularly of Europe as a group, before moving to the G7?
And perhaps another unscripted moment came when he just shook hands with French President Emmanuel Macron. Quite a grip. But, look, I think that as he heads to the G7 summit, you're going to see a pivot toward economic issues. And we saw a little bit of this, Vonnie, in Saudi Arabia when the president announced a 10-year, $400 billion commitment with top U.S. CEOs and executives in the defense community with him for that trip. But this is the president's sweet spots. At least that's how the administration feels. There is no question that back home, he's facing intense criticism on a host of issues, including these investigations, and of course on his budget. Look for the G7 for him to try to continue to reset the rhetoric of his campaign and to try to make a good first impression in Europe. But quite candidly, just from my reporting here on the ground in Belgium, I can tell you that the response he's getting in Europe is night and day with the response that he got in Saudi Arabia and Israel, which were both much more accepting.